Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Network and Chill. I'm glad to be here today. It's been a while since we joined you all virtually. I'm Chris Red, your co-host, co-founder of Network and Chill, joined with Ricky Mason as well. It's been a great week this week, bro. We've been had some exciting events this week, talking bourbon and IP on Wednesday. Yesterday, having a great health equity event with Business First over at the Olmsted. So it's been a phenomenal week.
Man, it's been awesome, man, to just connect and get back out. I feel like November is always, a great month for network and chill. So it's been great to get back, to it.
Yeah, and I think today is really around an event talking about Global Entrepreneurship Week and really having a great conversation today. So, Rick, go ahead and kick it off so we can bring our guests on stage today.
Yes. So welcome to another episode of the Network and Chill podcast. Today, we're zooming in on the Midwest and Southeast entrepreneurial ecosystem, celebrating Global Entrepreneurship Week and the excitement around the next big thing competition. In this special episode, we're honored to have a distinguished guest who's at the forefront of fostering small business growth in the region. Joining us today is Mike Fulkerson, a dynamic leader in the entrepreneurial world. Mike is currently spearheading a groundbreaking small business initiative as the small business navigator for the Indiana Small Business Development Center. With a rich history in the consumer packaged goods industry and a passion for empowering startups and small business, Mike's expertise is invaluable to the entrepreneurial ecosystem across the Midwest and Southeast. And he's also been a part of two of my favorite organizations, one L8 and the other Steam Exchange. But without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Mike Fulkerson.
Hello.
What's going on, Mike? Good. How are you doing today?
Doing good. Happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Super excited to have you. It's been a pleasure over the last few weeks and get to know you and some of the work you're doing. Great. I think Ricky just gave a great intro of your background, what you do. But I would love to hear from you, like this role. Love to hear what drew you to this role and some of the work you do on a day-to-day.
Yeah, sure thing. And thank you for the introduction there, Ricky. Appreciate it. I did spend about 18 years in the food and beverage industry before entering the domain that I'm in now. I'd worked both on the retail side of the industry as well as the manufacturing side. And a lot of people don't know this, but I had a pretty interesting path to where I am now in entrepreneurship. I actually got my undergraduate degree in studio art. So I was doing printmaking and sculpture and ceramics. And straight out of college, I ended up working with a sculpture studio in Louisville, Kentucky called Bright Foundry. An individual named Barney Bright started that facility way back in the day. There's a lot of Barney Bright sculptures around, all around Kentucky and southern Indiana. But I joined that team of artisans, and we created monumental bronze sculpture for state contracts, private contracts, anything from individual works of art to big commission pieces like life-size bronze statues. But September 11th happened, and a lot of the funding that was going towards public art, quality of place, we will call that, dried up. And a lot of that funding got diverted to defense and making sure that the communities were safe. So I was laid off and kind of twiddling my thumbs for a little bit, like, what do I do? Ended up taking a position that I thought would be just kind of a holdover position until contracts started coming back into the studio. But it was with a retailer called Wild Oats Marketplace. And I don't know if you all remember Wild Oats. They had a chain coast to coast, about 130 stores, ended up getting purchased by Whole Foods Market. So Whole Foods absorbed them in. But I ended up just loving the natural food and beverage culture. The people who, entered that organic foods and beverage industry, just a really dynamic crowd. The business was very ethically managed. So I ended up just really working my way up the ranks through, I started off as a bakery clerk, ended up a department manager, then a regional department manager, then a store manager, then a category manager at the corporate level. And that's where things really started to take off on my new trajectory. As a category manager, I was in charge of different categories at the retail level. We had about 46 stores at a company called Earth Fare, based out in North Carolina, but the stores were everywhere from Cleveland, Ohio, down to Tallahassee, Florida, and everywhere in between. Very similar in scale to a Whole Foods. The grocery selection is going to be pretty similar. They also have, an in-house bakery, deli, you name it. But as a category manager, I oversaw categories like bulk foods, dairy, fresh foods, beverages. I would source products from suppliers, from entrepreneurs. And the really cool thing about this role at Earth Fare that really did set me up for where I am today is that we were a retailer. Again, we had about 45, 46 stores at the time that I was there, but we were known as a first mover. We would bring startup companies into the office during category review. If there was a startup company in Indiana or in Kentucky that could handle the volume of being placed in 45, 46 stores, we would bring them in, and that would be their first real shot at building a customer base. I got to know a lot of these entrepreneurs really well, to the point to where they wouldn't just call to see how things were going. They would call for insight, built a lot of good dialogues with a lot of good entrepreneurs. But a company called Ruby Red Tea Company, based out of Louisville, Kentucky, has since closed down. But they were one of the companies, one of the brands that I brought into all 46 stores. And it got out a little more public than I wanted it to be, that my wife and I were looking to relocate back to the Louisville area. They caught wind of it and offered me an opportunity to join up with Ruby Red Tea, help grow the brand. So I jumped on it. So that was when I jumped into entrepreneurship. Started off as the national sales director, migrated into the role of chief operating officer. As you all know, and everybody else who's tuned in right now knows that, when you're in a startup, you're wearing all the hats. You may have the role of COO, but you're also the salesperson. You're also taking the calls with investors after hours. You're doing it all. But that was where I entered the entrepreneurship scene. From Ruby Red Tea, I ended up partnering with a company called Jade Monk out of Austin, Texas. Another bottled tea. So again, it's in that food and beverage domain. Yeah. We grew that brand, bootstrapped it. Actually, the two founders and myself didn't have to take on any equity capital, and ended up selling that to a small investment firm. So we, our investment was paid back. And I still have my hands in a few different operations here around Southern Indiana and North Central Kentucky, but without getting too far down the rabbit hole, I hope I haven't blathered too much at you all. But what led me to what I'm doing now? So over the 18 years that I spent in food and beverage, again, both on the retail side and the manufacturing side, as a startup entrepreneur, I did gain a lot of good information. I've worked with some stellar teams. I mean, business is teamwork. You're only as good as your team or your weakest link on that team. So I definitely built a good knowledge base when COVID happened. Once in a generation occurrence. I was one of the lucky folks who got COVID very early in 2020, before the vaccines were available, when they were still trying to figure out what the heck COVID was and how it was affecting people. And it hit me pretty hard. I ended up in the hospital with COVID pneumonia. I had the long COVID to deal with. I was out of commission for numerous months, literally pretty much bedridden. That caused a lot of soul searching. I started looking, kind of where I was in life, where my wife was, were we, as happy as we could be. And I kind of made the decision, my wife and I decided together, actually, that I wanted to be in a role that I could reach out to the entrepreneur community. I could help people succeed. That 18 years of knowledge that I built, I hit a lot of roadblocks. I hit a lot of pitfalls. If I can assist anyone with navigating all the variables that are at play on any given day in small business or entrepreneurship, I'm a give first individual. I want to give information to help people succeed. So shortly after, I decided to make that leap at the first viable opportunity. That this position came open with the Indiana Small Business Development Center. I applied to it, got it. So I'm happy as a clam with what I'm doing now. But in a nutshell, that brings me to where I am with the Indiana SBDC and the IEDC.
Oh, I love that that you went through that journey, because I think that oftentimes, especially for our young viewers, it's like, I want to get into that entrepreneurial role right now, and they don't find the value in, you know, working through corporate, and I mean, those opportunities found you, it sounds like, you know, while you were
Yes.
kind of going through your corporate experience. So I just wanted to double tap on that for our younger viewers. Like, it is so important to get that experience, you know, in corporate, because that's going to give you, you know, that preparation that you need when you take that leap, or, you know, take that entrepreneurial role. And I mean, leading up to your position now, could you tell us a little bit more about the Small Business Initiative? What are your core objectives, and how does the initiative specifically address the unique challenges of small businesses in the Southeast and Midwest?
Yeah. Great question. So with the Indiana Small Business Development Center, you know, we are primarily taxpayer funded. We also get funding from private organizations, municipalities, counties. So all of our services are free to small business owners. And boy, have we got a roster of services available. And, you know, I know people hear small business entrepreneurship. You know, 98% of businesses in the state of Indiana are small businesses. You know, unless you're an Eli Lilly, you know, Cummins, you're probably going to be in the small business fold. So as long as you fall within that SBA definition of small business, and again, that's 98% of all Indiana businesses, you can come to the ISBDC for services. We assist with everything from business planning, financial forecasting, you know, the nuts and bolts of building the foundation of a small business. But we also have programs for entrepreneurs and businesses who have been on the scene for quite a while. We have an export initiative. If it is a manufacturer in the state of Indiana that wants to tap into the Canadian market, the Mexican market, or markets overseas, we have programs that can help entrepreneurs navigate, you know, all of the paperwork, the taxation, the tariffs, all of the legalities of exporting. We have a manufacturing initiative where we have specialty advisors on hand to help any type of manufacturing business in the state of Indiana. That could be upskilling your workforce. That could be implementing new machinery. You name it. If you have hit a roadblock, chances are the Small Business Development Center is going to have the resources and tools to help you get past that roadblock. And you know, we work very closely with the IEDC. The role I hold today is called Entrepreneurial Ecosystems Navigator. So I am housed still out of the Indiana Small Business Development Center. We have 10 regions throughout the state. All 92 counties are serviced through those 10 regions. And I also work very closely in lockstep with the IEDC, who is overseeing the new ecosystems initiative that we have launched this year. You know, if I can go back a little bit in time, Indiana really has done an impeccable job on building out a state that is very conducive to entrepreneurship. If you all haven't seen, Forbes magazine this year did rank Indiana as the best state in the nation to start a business. And that's huge. That is a major feather in the cap. There are a lot of reasons to why that's the case. I would encourage everybody to go out, Google that article and read it. It's got a lot of good information on what the state has been doing. But anytime I explain where we are at today with the entrepreneurial ecosystem initiative that started this year, I go back to 2015 when the state of Indiana rolled out the Regional Cities Initiative. What that was, it was focused primarily on building out quality of place. You know, getting communities to work beyond their municipal boundaries, beyond their county boundaries, to really identify what their region needed to make it a place where people wanted to live, work, play, and build a business. Again, that was back in 2015, but it was a very successful program. 3 different regional development authorities ended up getting about $42 million each for each region to build out infrastructure, to build out their parks, again, to really build that quality of place that would bring people to Indiana. In
Mike,
20,
Mike, I got a quick question while you're talking about that, right? Just so we can make sure we get into that. Like thinking through that piece right there of the that build out from the back in 2015, right? What were some of the initial call outs and challenges that you saw back in 2015? And maybe what are some of the challenges you think entrepreneurs are seeing today?
Yep. Let's see. Back in 2015, when the Regional Cities Initiative began, I would say the biggest challenge was really getting people in communities to truly embrace that collaborative mindset. To break out of those silos that do naturally occur. Of course, we know that municipalities and counties have those fiscal boundaries, but other silos can also develop. And getting communities to kind of break through those, reaching over to your neighbor across the county line to find out what their needs are. But it was a very successful program to really ingrain that new frame of thinking. That is the new economic development. States, if they're keeping up with trends, you're no longer just chasing the biggest smokestack to put in your state and draw employees. You're focusing on the quality of life. That is direct economic impact. Current to where we are now, I would say up until this year, the biggest issue we were hearing from entrepreneurs is that each community throughout the state has been historically doing a whole lot for entrepreneurs, a lot of good programs, a lot of good resources, but there was no centralized access point to the ecosystem that was being built throughout the state. Again, natural silos kind of rose in different areas. So, the big concern we heard was, how do we break down these silos? How do we get all these different communities to work together to build out a statewide ecosystem that can allow entrepreneurs to flourish? And that is where this initiative, the Entrepreneurial Ecosystems Initiative, grew out of. Earlier this summer, we did launch a brand new website through the IEDC. It's called connectind.com, CONNECTIND.com. And what that is, that's really our digital front door to the Indiana ecosystem. And I'll tell you, as we were putting this site together, it went live early this summer. So it is a new website. It's very robust, but we're only utilizing about 10% of its capabilities right now. We're going to be doing like a slow drip out, not to overwhelm people. But what we found out is that there are so many fantastic resources throughout the state of Indiana for entrepreneurs that a lot of these folks just didn't know about, or they didn't know how to research and connect with these resources or support organizations. So now we've got our digital front door. We've got connectind.com. A lot of good capabilities on there. You can do custom matches. And this is a free website, again, no fee to participate. We just want the information to be out there for our entrepreneurs. But you can get custom matched with support organizations within your region based on where you are set up in the state of Indiana. You can network directly with other entrepreneurs, with support organizations, with chambers of commerce. It's a very robust platform, and I do encourage everybody participating today, check it out. Have a look. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised on the amount of information and relevant information that is on there. And the piece that I do like to hype is that it's not just a digital gateway. There's a human component to it, and I'm part of that human component as the ecosystems navigator. Every region, all 10 regions of the state, will have an entrepreneurial ecosystems navigator like myself. We have 7 in the seat right now. We're still looking for 3 additional navigators in a few other divisions of the state, but we are there any day of the week. We're a button click away on connectind.com. Some entrepreneurs just want to surf the site, make their own connections to the resources. Some people want a Sherpa or a shepherd to kind of help them navigate, and we're there to do that. We'll make warm introductions to support organizations, venture capital funds, you name it.
That's awesome. And I want to tie that back around to one thing that you said earlier when we were, and tying this back to, global entrepreneurship. I happen to be in the middle of, working to get our products ready to export for one of our companies. And once I was like, oh yeah, I can just sell my software, anywhere around the world, right? They just go online and buy it. And they're like, no, that's not how this thing works. So we've been working with some folks on the Kentucky side to help us navigate the waters of export. And and we have some awesome programs. So could you double tap on one, the programs that you all offer and how they can help support entrepreneurs in globally exporting? And then could you talk about opportunities that you see for entrepreneurs in this region to export globally, as far as, markets and regions?
Yeah, absolutely. So every state in the nation does have a small business development center. They are all tied into the American Small Business Development Center organization for general oversight and so forth. The SBA at the federal level also has a big hand at play in the SBDCs across the country, but Kentucky also has an SBDC. They may operate a little bit differently. They might have a few different programs. I don't know for sure if Kentucky's has an exporting accelerator like we do in Indiana, but it would not surprise me if they do have that. Even if they don't have an official program, I'm sure they do have resources to assist on that front. In Indiana, we have what we call the Indiana Export Acceleration Program. What we've seen with this program is that there are a lot of Indiana manufacturers and suppliers, maybe small companies, maybe they're making candles, maybe they're making bottled tea, who knows? But they could be what we call an accidental exporter. Maybe their product ends up at a retailer in Canada through a distributor or some sort. So we work with accidental exporters to get above board and make sure that everything is above board when they're selling to a different country. But we do really focus on the businesses that have a good product, have a good service, who the natural next step is to sell overseas or sell to another country. We do have specialty advisors that we can link that entrepreneur up with directly to start from scratch. That's going to take a new business plan or a heavily updated business plan if you're going to be taking your products or your services across country lines. There are a lot of legalities to navigate. I mean, the ocean is deep when you're talking about exporting. And again, we've got those specialty advisors on hand. And it's a really solid program. Exporting, again, you can be a small company and still do lucrative business by exporting, as long as you're doing it by the books and you're above board. And there's a lot to account for on that front.
Are there any grants available for folks to, for training and to, I know here they're for website development, for getting your website ready for international sales. So do you have any programs like that?
Yeah. At the Indiana SBDC, we do have some grant programs. One of them is currently in hiatus. It's going to be getting refunded, I believe, in June and July of 2024, but that's called the Manufacturing Readiness Grant, which kind of ties into exporting. But that is for companies that want to upgrade their manufacturing capabilities. It's a pretty robust grant. It is a dollar for dollar match up to $200,000 to where companies can apply for that. As far as exporting, I will have to double check with our advisors to see what, there's always something new coming down the pipeline. Yep. But grants are available. I will tell you they're few and far between at the end of the day. Yeah. But Manufacturing Readiness Grant is a big one that'll be going live again early next year. And this can all be found on isbdc.org. We do have easy links to any grant programs that we do currently have active. But grants are out there. I would say the best step to take if you're in the state of Indiana, if you're organized in Indiana as a business, or if you're a resident, go to the Indiana SBDC, contact the advisor to see what is currently in play out there. Do the same thing in Kentucky with the Kentucky SBDC. They're going to have the pulse of what is out there and what is available, and can provide assistance for preparing to put your application in.
Love it, Michael. Ton of resources to take advantage of, particularly if your company's in Indiana or you're a resident of Indiana. Aside from the resources, we all know that networking and collaboration are quite vital in any entrepreneur's journey. So next week we have the privilege to be a part of the event you're doing. You're part of November 16th in Columbus, Indiana. love for you to dive into the evolution of that event, what to expect at the event, and maybe some of the entrepreneurs that will be in attendance there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to. So this event going on Thursday next week in Columbus, Indiana, it's going to be the fireside chat components are going to be moderated by Chris and Ricky here. Very excited about that. But this is what the event is. It's the launch of our 2023 Entrepreneurship Indiana Yearbook. And matter of fact, I don't know if y'all can see it too well. This is the 2022 copy, and it's also digital. You can find it on the IEDC website. If anybody wants to get on there and peruse it, it's pretty impressive. This is directly a part of our ecosystems initiative. Again, the state of Indiana has been for years investing in building out quality of place. The next logical step is to invest in our entrepreneurial ecosystem. And part of that is storytelling. Chris, you brought up networking. That is a very important part. Storytelling is also a very important part. There's a saying here in Indiana that Hoosiers are very humble. We don't toot our horn enough. We're trying to get over that hurdle, and the yearbook is one way to do that. But what it does is it really highlights entrepreneurs throughout the state of Indiana, the risks that they're taking, the successes that they're seeing. I mean, this yearbook is all things entrepreneurship. And the event next Thursday is going to be a celebration of the folks who have been highlighted in the 2023 yearbook, as well as just entrepreneurship in general. We're going to have 2 different fireside chats. And we're going to have a roster of entrepreneurs on each of those panels talking about all things entrepreneurship. We're going to have some keynotes from members of the IEDC entrepreneurship team and some other individuals. Then we're going to wrap up the evening with some good networking and cocktails.
Yeah, so sounds like
Sorry, Ricky, what were you saying?
It sounds like a good time.
I think we're going to have a blast. Our RSVPs are flowing in. I know it's going to be a packed house just based on what we've heard from people so far. And again, this is a big part of ecosystem, bringing people together. We want Indiana's entrepreneurial ecosystem to be open to everybody. That includes the mom and pop shops. If you're walking down the sidewalk in New Albany or Indianapolis, you see a coffee shop, you see a clothing boutique. That's entrepreneurship. We want you to be part of our ecosystem. The companies like RX Lightning, who set up shop in downtown New Albany. My gosh, one heck of a rocket ship. That's entrepreneurship. We want RX Lightning to be part of our ecosystem. But what we are building here, and again, we're still in the first year of this. We really got the wheels turning in June and July of this year. But this is a long-term initiative. And we are going to continue to cultivate the ecosystem. We're going to continue to meet entrepreneurs where they are at to give them the specific resources and supports that they need at the right time in their journey. But this event next week, again, this is just one of the things you can look forward to more of next year and in the years ahead.
I mean, I'm excited with this, Mike. Particularly, you mentioned the storytelling, right? And I think there's a lot of similarities between Indiana, Kentucky, of us telling our stories and making sure that we're relevant and we know what's going on in our backyard, in our own communities. And I think, like you said, you're thinking about expansion and growth, right? Like it's important for Kentucky entrepreneurs to engage in the Indiana system, ecosystem, and vice versa. If you're talking about scaling and growing your companies, and I think the collaboration piece, the diversity of type of companies and industries, it's something we all can learn from, right? You talk about your operational experience and your understanding of financial models and growth, scale. No matter what type of company you have, it's something you can take advantage of. And I think it's so important for many of these entrepreneurs to know one another. That's why Ricky and I are super excited to be a part of this event.
Yeah. Well, we are super happy that you all are on board with us. And I got to say, I'm just cheering you both on because you all do a lot of great work on behalf of the entrepreneurial ecosystem throughout the entire region. And I don't know about you two, but I am on a day-by-day basis pleasantly surprised with the quality of people building our ecosystems. ethical, inclusive, just genuinely really good people. There's really good energy. And I think we're on the cusp of something really big in Indiana and Kentucky. I think this region really is on the cusp of something big. And the more we can get the word out that we are here for you, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're just in the ideation phase, we're here for you. If you're established, we're here for you. We want to see you succeed. And we also want to educate our communities who aren't entrepreneurs. We need to educate them better on why entrepreneurship is so important, what it does bring to quality of place in Indiana and Kentucky, what it contributes to economic development is profound. And I think the more we can get the word out, the more we can get people to join us as entrepreneurs and as just citizens supporting your local entrepreneurs. That's a happy day for everybody involved.
Man, and that's exactly, the goal is to show support and have that give first mentality that you referred to earlier. I think that that's one thing that Chris and I, when we, started Network and Chill, our goal was to make sure that we were, showing that give first mentality and being, a beacon, to that. And with that being said, are there any success stories that you could share with us from your journey, or any entrepreneurs that we might not have heard of that particularly stand out to you, or any case studies from the region?
Boy, that is a great question. Yes, I mean, there are a lot of success stories. One that comes to mind, I think, because we were just talking about exporting, Huber's Farm and Winery and Distillery in Starlight, Indiana, family-owned operation, multi-generational family farm. They have a restaurant on site where you can go get a good country meal any day of the week. They do the pumpkin patch for schools around Halloween time. They also have one heck of an impeccable distillery where they're making all sorts of delicious spirits. They're winning good awards. They are now exporting, and they have definitely leaned in to the resources throughout Southern Indiana to help them achieve that. And I know that's just one among many success stories, but that one does come to mind because, Huber's may have never, a decade ago, maybe never entertained exporting distilled products, but they are running an impeccable business. They are now exporting out of the U.S. But we've got a ton of stories. And I will say, I will use this as a plug for people to show up next Thursday, because that's what that event is going to be all about. We're going to be hearing success stories of entrepreneurs all throughout the state of Indiana and what they've been achieving.
Oh, no, I got Pops Reserve. It's about time for it. So.
No, definitely. Thank you, Mike, for your time today. This has been great and insightful. We are grateful for the work you're doing in the state of Indiana. We're looking forward to joining next week. As we close out, just for those who are listening in, how can they stay connected with you, and give them also this the information on how to connect with the event next week as well?
Yeah, absolutely. You all can reach me directly through either website, connectend.com. I am highlighted there as an ecosystems navigator for the Southeast region. You can also contact any other navigator throughout the state of Indiana. I can also be reached through isbdc.org. But both of those sites have event calendars on them, connectend and isbdc.org. Everything we've talked about today is going to be on both of those event calendars. If you do want to attend next Thursday's event in Columbus, Indiana, or any other event that we have on the roster, we've got a lot planned for Global Entrepreneurship Week throughout the state of Indiana. But access those event calendars and RSVP. We would love to see you there.
Well, awesome. Thanks, Mike.
Very welcome. Thank you both.
We appreciate you, and see you next week, November 16th. Be there. We'll see you there. Peace.
Excellent. Take care.